A high-stakes election for a divided nation with control of Congress on the line.
We're in a historical time right now. It is important that we use the ballot to speak.
In Georgia, it's the race for governor with a potential for an historic outcome.
It's about our lives and our future. And that is why we must proclaim in one clear voice that we are Georgia.
With your help, we will win on our conservative issues that we believe in.
Democrats across the country are predicting a blue wave, hoping for a check on the Trump presidency.
When you vote, you can be a check on bad behavior. When you vote, you can choose hope over fear.
But Republicans say that will not happen.
If the radical Democrats take power, they will take a wrecking ball to our economy and to our future.
And no matter which side you're on, the outcome depends on who gets their voters to the ballot box. Well, the polls close in Georgia in an hour, and after months of attack ads, endorsements from big names, and countless hours of campaigning, it all comes down to this.
Yes, the race to watch here in Georgia is the one for governor, and it could not be any closer. Democrat Stacey Abrams and Republican Brian Kemp are neck and neck in the polls. We're now just hours away from learning whether one of them will win or whether they're headed for a runoff.
We have a team of reporters covering all of the key races tonight, as well as some of the problems at the polls. Let's begin with Fox 5's Deidre Dukes, who's live at the Abrams campaign headquarters tonight. Deidre?
Well, like millions of Georgians, Stacey Abrams voted early. She actually cast her ballot at North DeKalb Mall about 3 weeks ago in late October, surrounded by family and friends who joined her there. That was so she could make the most of today, Election Day, making that final push, getting out with the people, making several campaign stops across the state on a bus, making a bus tour, taking advantage of that last opportunity to reach all the people that she could, trying to make sure those undecided voters, if they were still out there, those traditional voters, those dedicated voters who hadn't made it to the polls, making that last push to get them out there, especially given today's bad weather. Now, I spoke to a campaign spokesman for the Abrams campaign late this afternoon, and he did tell me that she feels very good about the campaign that she ran during the election, during the race. He says that she feels good leading into tonight, and he also tells me that it's not clear at this time when we might expect her to come down here and first address her supporters. He says that really depends on how election returns look, how the vote count looks early in the evening. I'm going to send it over to my colleague Morris Diggs, who's at the Kemp campaign. Morris?
Well, like your candidate must feel, Brian Kemp believes he's left everything on the field, having visited 76 counties in the last 2 months. Now, earlier today, he made an important stop in Winterville to go vote with his daughters in tow. Now, one of the important issues that's been raised by Ms. Abrams is health care in Georgia, saying expand Medicaid. However, Kemp says there's a better idea, particularly in the rural area where health concerns are very, very great. He says do that, address that problem with some tax credits. $60 to $100 million in tax credits will address that problem. We are here at the Classic Center in Athens, and this evening he's expected to watch the returns come in. He may or may not come out early to meet voters. Reporting live from Athens, I'm Morris Diggs, Fox 5 News.
All right, Morris, we'll be checking back with you. Thanks. Long lines at the polls. That's what many people experienced today, even after record early voting in Georgia.
Yeah, some voters also faced voting machine problems. In Gwinnett County, we received a number of reports of voting machines not working and people having to cast paper ballots.
Fox 5's Angelique Proctor went to Anniston Elementary School to find out what happened there. Angelique, it must have been frustrating for the voters.
Russ, some voters were pretty annoyed. Even election officials here in Gwinnett County says this is the first time that a precinct has had to go to paper ballots for such a long amount of time. 4 incredible hours. Inside the precinct at Annistown Elementary School looked more like a waiting room or an amusement park line. All this while the voting machines sat silently. Poll workers offered paper ballots during the 4 hours of technical difficulties. One voter started broadcasting the problems on Facebook Live.
This is Facebook Live. Please get on there, report. This is absolutely insane. We have no clue about what's going on.
A group of about 40 faithful voters hunkered down and refused to leave.
We were told for about 2 hours that it was the machines, found out about the third or fourth hour it was the voter SIM card where the ballots would upload. It wouldn't upload to the system. So everyone's very, very frustrated.
My grandmother taught me, if you are determined to do something, you stick with it. So that was my determination.
Gwinnett election officials say the express poll computers that generate voting cards were down. Without a card, voters can't use the electronic machines. Congressman Hank Johnson and others from the Georgia Democratic Party scrambled a news conference together, encouraging voters who had left to come back.
As people found out about this issue in this precinct and a few others around here, as you've just heard, folks did descend upon this area. You've got television cameras, you've got folks from the media, and you've got a giant number of people who are here with legal support and otherwise to make sure that folks' votes are going to be counted if they show up at the polls.
Now, these problems were not just limited to this precinct. They also had the same problem at Harbin Elementary School, Swanee Library, and the Mount Vernon Baptist Church. Then there were human error problems over at another precinct, Anderson-Livesey, where they didn't have a power cord for an amount of time. Because of all the problems here, this polling site will remain open until 7/25. Reporting live in Gwinnett County, Angelique Proctor, Fox 5 News.
Angelique, thanks. The governor's race has gotten a lot of attention, of course, but there are some other races that we'll be keeping a close eye on tonight.
Yes, one of them definitely the 6th District congressional race, which covers parts of Cobb, Fulton, and DeKalb. Incumbent Republican Karen Handel narrowly defeated Democrat Jon Ossoff in a special election last year. It was the most expensive House contest on record. Now, the current Democratic nominee, Lucy McBath, has achieved national attention as an advocate for gun control after her 17-year-old son was shot and killed at a Florida gas station.
We're also keeping an eye on the 7th District next door, which covers parts of Forsyth and Gwinnett counties. And in that race, a Democrat, Carolyn Bordeaux, faces off against Republican incumbent Rob Woodall, who won his race 2 years ago with 60% of the vote in that Republican district. Also on the ballot across the state, Georgia's so-called brunch bill. Right now, customers can't order a drink until 12:30 on Sundays, but if voters in these counties approve the measure, they could buy alcohol as early as 11 a.m.
And Russ, coming up just before 6:30, we'll be joined by Lori Gary with the Georgia Gang to break down those big ticket items on the ballot. Also, we're going to discuss whether the candidates have done enough to win their races. Now, on the national level, for months, political experts have favored Democrats to win back control of the House.
Now, in the Senate, Republicans are cautiously optimistic they will hold on to or even gain seats. And Fox 5 anchor Tom Haynes is here now to break it all down for us. Tom, a really tough map for the Democrats in the Senate.
Boy, Russ and Sine, imagine the tension in Washington tonight. Both chambers, the sheer number of airtight toss-ups means there's no guarantees about tonight's outcome, even though, as you say, Democrats go into the night with the advantage, not to mention the party of the president historically loses seats in their first midterm election. Let's first look at the United States Senate, where Democrats need to net 2 seats to take control. There are a handful of toss-up races. The map for Democrats is not an easy one. Many are running for re-election in states that President Trump handily won back in 2016. States like Indiana, Tennessee, Florida, Texas, Missouri, New Mexico, and Nevada are all tight races for Democrats. In Florida, meantime, incumbent Democrat Bill Nelson is running for a 4th term. He's challenged by Republican Rick Scott, the current governor of Florida. And Tennessee is an open seat held by Republican Bob Corker, who decided to retire. If former Democratic Governor Phil Bredesen wins, he'd be the first Democrat to win a Senate race in Tennessee since Al Gore in 1990. He faces Republican Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn, who would become the first female senator in Tennessee history. Let's talk about the United States House of Representatives now. Come on over here, where the entire House is up for grabs, but there are 29 so-called toss-up races that we're watching tonight. Pollsters predicting Democrats picking up anywhere between 30 to 40 seats. Always that chance of an upset, though, as we saw in 2016. Whether they'll flip the House or not, Democrats still expected to gain seats in the chamber, given the political environment right now. But as we say, we'll have to wait and see what the night holds.
Yes.
Russ?
Some polls close now in Kentucky and Indiana, but it's going to be a long night. Tom, thanks. Again, the polls close this evening at 7 in Georgia. Our live streaming coverage of the election starts at 8 o'clock on the Fox 5 Atlanta Facebook page and fox5atlanta.com with Tom Haines. We'll also have updated returns on our website throughout the night, and then tune in for team coverage and analysis on Fox 5 News beginning at 10 o'clock and extending probably well into the morning.